All right, shalom. My name is Austin, and you're watching the 144 Kids recap, Shabbat recap on the Kids Action Bible Show. Let's get to it. All right, so let's dive straight in. Every week we recap what we went over the week before we dive into the lesson for the current week. So this is the recap of the recap, right? Recap inception, if you will. So these are some of the facts we went over the week before. If you want to get a deep dive into that study, just go watch the previous Shabbat recap. We talked about how Joseph is the 11th son. He was sold into slavery at 17 years old. What? He could interpret dreams by Yah. His sons received Reuben's birthright. Extra points if you know which sons those were, what the names of his sons were. He had a multicolored coat. You see him flexing right there. And he was loved by his father Yaakov, whose name was changed to Israel, and he died at the ripe old age at 110. So here's the verse that we got that 17-year-old slavery thing. It's right here in Genesis chapter 37, verse 2. It says right here, highlighted, this is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, so his half-brothers, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Later, we know that the brothers did not take kindly to this, and they later sold him into slavery. And this is the rest of Genesis chapter 37. So we know that he was sold into slavery at the age of 17. Wow. That's wild. Let's talk about that birthright. This is in 1 Chronicles chapter 5. It says, now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, he was indeed the firstborn, but because he defiled his father's bed, something bad happened, all right? His birthright was given to the sons of Joseph. Do you know what their names are? I'm gonna let you think about it. We'll see. I'm gonna give you some time if you don't. The son of Israel, so that the genealogy is not listed according to the birthright. So Reuben, who's the firstborn, who normally that's who the birthright goes to, the firstborn son. It said because he defiled his father's bed, his birthright went to Joseph's sons, which are his nephews. Crazy. Let's see if we know who they are. There it is. Ephraim and Manasseh received Reuben's birthright. Boom. And we see the verses right there that we got it from. There it is. Look at that. All right, Shabbat notes. And these are the workbooks that we're working out of, the Life of Joseph activity book and the Story of Joseph beginner's activity book. If you'd like to access these or buy these, just go ahead and click the link in the description below. All right, so this is Joseph part 2, because we've already been diving into Joseph. So let's keep going. So we got a lot to read. So this is Genesis chapter 41, verses 38 through 43. Make sure you write that down so you can go back and read Genesis 41. It says, and Pharaoh said to his servants, could we find another like him, a man in whom is the spirit of Elohim? Elohim means God, but this is the real meaning of it. Who has the spirit of Elohim. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since Elohim has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. Why? Because the Father has given you this wisdom, this chokmah, right? You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only the throne, I am greater than you. Look, that's probably what it looked like. Man, he was so blown away by the wisdom and the discernment that the Most High gave Joseph that he put him in charge of everything. Let's keep reading. It says right here, and Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt, all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took off his seal ring off his hand, and he put it on Joseph's hand. And he dressed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried out, these are the people of Egypt. They cried out before him, bow the knee. And he set him over all the land of Mitzrayim. How crazy is that? He even put him above Potiphar. He used to work for Potiphar. And now Potiphar works for him. Wow. Because of what the Father has done through him, he is elevated to the second in command in Mitzrayim, the second in command in Egypt. How awesome is that? Look at it right here. You see him right here. This picture came from the Bible Pathway Adventures workbook. You see him receiving the gold chain and the signet ring from Pharaoh. Wow. So let's continue reading from our workbook, specifically this workbook right here, the Life of Joseph activity book. Let's go. So this is an overview, and you can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, this is based on Genesis chapter 44. So go back and read the chapter, but we want to give an overview because there's so many chapters that detail everything that happened in Joseph's story. So let's read the overview. Now, because of the famine, Joseph's brothers went to Egypt to buy grain. When they saw Joseph, they said, "We need food to feed our families." But none of them recognized Joseph in his fine Egyptian clothes. It had been years since they seen their brother. They probably wasn't even sure if he's still alive. But he recognized them at once, of course. He gave them grain and sent them home. But he kept Simeon in Egypt so that they would return with Benjamin. And we see up here Simeon being taken to prison. Why? Because he wanted to see if their hearts had changed. And Benjamin was his brother, his little brother, the youngest brother now. And so they wanted to see if they were going to treat him the same way they treated Joseph. It says right here, later the brothers returned to Egypt with gifts for Joseph, and they returned with Benjamin. This is him right here pointing, saying, put Simeon in jail and don't come back until you bring back Benjamin. Look at that. So after Joseph ate a meal with his brothers, he hid a silver cup in Benjamin's grain sack. Some translations just say silver. He wanted to test his brothers to see if their behavior had changed. That's exactly what we said. And when the servant found the cup, he asked, "Why did you steal my master's silver cup?" The brothers were scared. "We did not steal this cup. What will happen to us?" They cried. They hurried into the city to meet Joseph. So now Joseph set them up. Joseph stood in front of his brothers. He said, "I am Joseph." He said, "Is my father still alive?" The brothers were scared. Would Joseph punish them for betraying him all those years ago? But Joseph loved his brothers. Whew, I've been scared. If I betrayed Joseph, I would have thought, this is it. This is the end of us.
I take you into my home, and this is how you repay me? By stealing?
We wouldn't steal from you. We'd never do such a thing.
And now you insult me by lying.
What?
One of you has stolen from me. Benjamin. The favored one.
I didn't take it.
Arrest him. For what you have done, you will be punished.
Put it in there. Ow, stop.
Take me instead. I beg you.
No, take me.
Take me. Take me.
No, you can't take me.
Take any of us, Your Grace. But please, let the boy go.
You would sacrifice yourselves for a half-brother who's spoiled by your father?
Yes.
Why? Why should you care if I take him? Beat him, make him a slave.
Because I will not make my father suffer again.
Again? What do you mean, again?
Our brother was not killed by wolves. We were blinded by jealousy and sold him into slavery. For 20 years we have lived with that guilt. We can't go back without the boy. My father could not bear it a second time, and neither could we. If anyone is to be punished, it should be us.
I will not harm any of you, or our father. I am your brother, Joseph.
Joseph.
I can't believe you get here. How can it be?
Joseph?
I have so much to tell you. So many questions to ask.
Joseph. Can you ever forgive us?
I already have. Can you forgive me for thinking I was some miracle from God?
But you are a miracle. God sent you to save our family and all of Egypt. And you did.
Hosanna, please, I'd like you to meet my brothers. You will join me here. All of you, with your families.
It was Yah's plan for me to come to Egypt. He sent me here to save lives. He sent me here to save lives, he told him. Wow. When Pharaoh learned about Joseph's family, he said, we'll get to that in a second, but the part I want you to focus on is Joseph's response. He said, this was Yah's plan. This was the Most High's plan. The Father sent me to Egypt. He sent me here to save lives. It reminds me of my favorite verse from Joseph, from Genesis. It's a couple chapters after this. It goes like this. It says, what you meant for evil, Yah meant for good. This whole time when Joseph was young and he was dreaming about these dreams, this wasn't about him being greater. This was about him saving lives. How? He was the one that kept Egypt and all the land from starving in the great famine that was coming. His brothers might have sold him into slavery out of spite and anger, but the Father knew that he was positioning Joseph right where he wanted him to preserve the people throughout the land of Egypt, but specifically the children of Israel. What you meant for evil, Yah meant for good. This is something that we should think about anytime anything bad happens to us. We should know that, you know what? The Father is in control. And regardless, this is all according to his plan. And so what someone might mean for evil, the Most High means for good. He can use it for good. And speaking of using it for good, it reminds me of this verse here in Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that all matters work together for the good of those who love Elohim. Those who love him keep his commandments, right? To those who are called according to his purpose. What does that mean? Those who are led by the Ruach, who are called according to keeping his commands and his statutes, everything works together for the good of those people. That's something to remind us. It completely lines up with this verse right here. So good. But now let's see what else Pharaoh said to Joseph. Pharaoh said, bring them back to Egypt to live. I will provide my wagons for the journey. I promise to give them the best land in Egypt. The best land in Egypt. Sometime later, Jacob, whose name is Israel now, and his family came to Egypt. When Jacob saw Joseph, he cried, now I can die in peace. I have seen my son is alive. How beautiful that moment must have been. And Pharaoh kept his promise, and he gave Joseph's family the best land in Egypt, the land of Goshen. Why is Goshen familiar? We were talking about this around Pesach time, around Passover time. Why is Goshen familiar? Why is this important? Why is it so important that Pharaoh gave Joseph the land of Goshen for his family? Let's take a look back at some old slides. Why is the land of Goshen important? What do you think? During the 10 plagues of Egypt, Yah protected the Hebrews in the land of Goshen. He used Joseph to get the Israelites into Egypt. And from Goshen, he sent Moses to lead them out of Egypt. Wow. Did you put that together? You probably already knew that. How awesome is that? I love when scripture just comes together. You know what I'm saying? So good. Whoop. Breakout rooms. Guys, you're not in breakout rooms. This is a question I want you to think about. If you could have dinner with any person from the Bible, who would you choose and why? Who would you choose and why? Would you have dinner with Queen Esther? Would you have dinner with King David? I don't know. You tell me. Who would you have dinner with? You let me know. Guys, that is our Shabbat recap. Guys, at the end of our last Shabbat, we just played one of these old Kids Action Bible Show videos. Me and you see JoJo over here. We were trying to keep up with Jonah, but I don't know. He was being disobedient to the Most High. So it got kind of scary as you can see all the waves in the background. But it was a lot of fun. But guys, thank you so much for tapping in for this week's Shabbat recap. I look forward to seeing you in the next. If you want to get connected, check out the email on our website. And other than that, shalom.